Welcome to our video of Fort Kent Elementary School's Personalized Learning Cluster for next year. Hope you enjoy the video.
We're going to start by talking about what the schedule of our day is going to look like, or we hope it's going to look like. Within our morning, we hope to, we're always going to start our mornings with a morning message and a greeting, where we'll have a chance to really focus on the habits of mind and take some time to celebrate learning in our environment. And kids will also have a chance to do some personal reflection of their goal, of their work towards their habits of we're also going to work on their ELA, whether it be read to self, write to self, and we're going to use the daily 5 structure for that, as well as where they're going to have 3 different ways to learn throughout the session, which would be I learn, I practice. And during this time, the learners would also have a chance to work in small group settings with facilitators, as well as one-on-one or some conference time. The afternoons we'd like to dedicate to some voice and choice in science and social studies, and the kiddos can work through their passion projects. Our plan is to have the learners create their own schedules for the course of the week, which they will carry with them, so they will always know exactly where to go. This is an example of a schedule we are currently using this year, which we will change for our next. There will be schedule blocks with learning facilitators, and there will be also the learners will be expected to fill in what they plan on doing and when for the rest of the week, whether that be math with a partner, themselves.
For our student support services, we still are going to be working with Title I, Gifted and Talented and Special Education. We'll be working with the staff who facilitate learning in these areas to adjust schedules and learning opportunities to meet the needs of our learners. And for lunch, our learners will attend lunch and recess with their age level peers. And during the meeting, Mr. Stevens proposed for the Allied Arts, which is music and phys ed, for students to be put into groups of a 3rd and 4th grade, 4th and 5th grade, a 5th grade by itself, and a 6th grade class.
And we are still discussing, asking for your feedback.
So please let Mr. Stevens know how you feel about having the Allied Arts in multi-grade clusters. Okay, the structure of the environment, we're hoping to have 4 or 5 classrooms. We haven't quite decided what that's going to be yet. Learners will be working in small groups, probably on passion projects, which are based on their interests, strengths. They'll also have time with a facilitator. They might meet with a facilitator in a small group, or they might meet with a facilitator for a conference, but there will be various times in the day where they will be either working with a facilitator or with other learners. The supply list. Our supply list is listed right over here on the left, and when the students bring these in, they're going to belong to our community, so they're going to be put in bins. Students are not going to have their own, etc. The whole community to use. The learners will need a clipboard and a trapper keeper. This is a pretty big trapper keeper where they can keep their schedule, they can keep their notebooks, they even have room in it for their laptop. And what we're thinking of doing is buying these bulk and then having the parents pay for them, similar to what we do with the agenda books. They are $18 or $19 each, and if you are able to pay for it, that's great. If you need some help to pay for it, please contact Mr. Stevens, and the students will also position books. We're going to be following a responsive classroom model where we will have morning meeting, or like Miss Marquis was saying, discussing the habits of mind, the core values of our district, setting goals, reflecting on how we're doing with those goals, celebrating students, our learners meeting targets. And the habits of mind, habits of work are going to be a big part of our curriculum. These are sometimes referred to as soft skills, and employers out in the world are looking for these skills in our learners as well as the academics. These will be part of, as well as setting a learning target in math, you'll also have a habit of mind that you're working on. Might be persevering, not to give up. When you're working on a team, you'll be working toward team goals. So these are going to be quite a big part of our curriculum.
A couple weeks ago, we pulled your kiddos to take a strength and interest assessment using thrively.com. So here is an example of the assessment that your kiddos took. We have a student here, her top strengths. She has appreciation, worldly, flexible, assertive, and social justice. And it also gives a little bio about who your child is as a learner and as a person in general. It also lists the aspirations, the top 3 jobs that he or she chose, and anything that interests them as well. And as a learning facilitator, you can go on and we can see next year a class snapshot of who we have as learners and all the interests. So looking at the strengths, we have a lot of students who are flexible thinkers. They're analytical and verbal. We have just a few fun-loving, worldly, creative. We have some leadership strengths in our class. And we have a lot of interest in sports, creative arts. And if you're wondering, as a parent, of course, you can make an account and check it out. You can also, we're sending home a copy of the assessment that your child took. And on the last page of that assessment will be a parent login. You can go in and connect your account to your child and see everything they're doing, including any pathways and activities based on their interests. We're also going to use this information to apply in science and social studies. Anything that they want to work on will be put towards their strengths and their passions and what they want to work towards. So this was Thrively, and this personalized learning profile will grow and change as your child evolves in school and in their lifetime. They can go on anytime and update profile. Now we have Mr. Sirwa, who will be talking about learner-driven practice. Here's Mr. Sirwa.
Now we're going to talk about learner-driven practice and how this personalized learning pilot really is an opportunity to get the learners to drive their learning, to be the ones who are making decisions about their learning, and how that all relates to what's going on in education today. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is college and career readiness. Each state has a definition for what it means to be college and career ready. Unfortunately, Maine is one of the few states that doesn't have that definition defined at this point. But here's one example from Washington, D.C., and you can see in this definition that it goes into having those reading, writing, and math skills, but also it goes beyond that and talking about social and cognitive skills that are necessary for individuals to be successful going into a college setting. If we take that a step further for career readiness, again, we're focusing on the knowledge, but also the technical skills needed for employment, for a specific career. And unfortunately, right now, the way that our system is set up, students only start getting exposed to those technical skills when they're juniors or seniors in high school. And I think it's so much more important that we start thinking about those things earlier. MIT Technology Review did a study with Oxford University, and they are trying to project what kind of skills are going to be needed for individuals to be employable in the year 2030, which is about the time when our second and third graders are going to be entering the workforce. And you look at these employable skills: judgment and decision making, fluency of ideas, active learning, learning strategies, originality. These are the things that we're projecting are going to be the employability skills needed. And we're not talking about, having higher reading skills or higher math skills, but having some of these, what we call soft skills. And that's right in line with what we have defined for our profile of a community high school graduate. We're saying that students need to be adaptable, and they need to be communicators, and they need to be innovative. These are all along the same lines of what that study from MIT and Oxford are showing as well. And you think about, what kind of jobs our children will be, what kind of jobs they will have when they go into the workforce in 2030. Look at some of these jobs: classroom avatar manager, narrowcaster. So think of broadcasting, but narrow for personalized experience. Vertical farmers. So, we're running out of land, so farming is going to go up rather than across the land. These are jobs that, for the most part, don't exist yet. So we have to prepare students for a future that is unknown at this point, and that's important as well. The International Center for Education has developed what's called the Rigor and Relevance Framework, and basically in this matrix here, you see two different taxonomies or two different models. One is the knowledge taxonomy, and that takes us from foundational learning, where you're just you're gaining knowledge for things, where you're using you're remembering knowledge that you learn. So you think about early elementary, you're getting to know your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, and you have to remember those things. And that starts to build as you go up the taxonomy. We move to comprehension, which is understanding things, and that'll happen as we get into the late elementary. And then we build onto that to application, where we're applying those understandings that we've gained. And as that continues to go up to analysis, and then synthesis and evaluation, where we're analyzing, evaluating, and creating. This is where the deep learning really happens, according to the knowledge taxonomy. Unfortunately, the way school is designed, for the most part, you only get to these deeper learning experiences of early college and advanced placement opportunities when you reach junior or senior year of high school. And some students never get to those opportunities. So, they're capping off here at high school, where really we're at the application, maybe early analysis phase, according to the taxonomy. If we go to the application model, where we actually apply that learning, school is designed in a way where knowledge really happens in content-specific courses. So math, it happens only in math, and science only happens in science, social studies in social studies class. Very rarely do we have cross-curricular courses where we kind of meld, and that does happen for the most part, in some places, but school traditionally is, content specific. If you're fortunate enough to have experiences beyond classroom experiences, for example, career and technical education, so the St. John Valley Technical Center, or some internship experiences, then you really get to have some real world application type learning. CTE is more predictable because there's a set curriculum, but internships are a little more unpredictable, where it's just like the workforce. Again, the only time we get to these experiences are in junior or senior year of high school. And think about this: if we change the language of the taxonomy to who's doing the work. So here in A, the teacher's doing the work, preparing the lessons, teaching the knowledge, Over here, the students doing the work because they're actually getting hands-on learning. Way up here, the student is thinking because of that analysis and synthesis and evaluation of higher level thinking skills. This is where we want to be, though, where the student works and the student thinks. The problem is, again, with schools, again, most students get to that high school level here. They're in content-specific courses, maybe some cross-curricular examples. But if we frame that here, the teacher is doing all the work, making those wonderful lesson plans, building those wonderful, those wonderful units of instruction. But it's a lot of work. And that's because we're really not tapping into these other domains here where we need to get our students to be working and thinking in new and different ways. Again, another reason for this pilot. If we take that now to our focus, which is placing students at the center, we really need to follow a framework on how to get there and building piece by piece so that when students are in high school, they've developed some agency where they're now able to make those connections and apply not only the knowledge in deeper level thinking, but also move across and be in charge of their learning and taking the learning beyond the classroom. We do that with 4 steps in one of the books that we're reading, Students at the Center, where students are building, voice. They're listening with understanding, questioning, and problem posing, and then thinking and communicating with clarity and precision. They move into being co-creators of what they're doing in their learning, working with their learning facilitator and how they're going to extend that learning beyond just, the worksheets and the curriculum, prescribed curriculum. They're doing a lot of self-discovery, finding out more about themselves, what their interests are, and we're doing a lot through our technology software programs and getting students to understand that. And then also that big piece of social construction, so making sure that they're understanding that they are part of a community, they're taking risks, gathering data, and thinking interdependently, not only just as an individual. So those are all things that we are trying to hone in on this pilot, and we hope that explains the why to where we're going with this learning opportunity.
Okay, now we're going to take you into the world of Empower, which is the learning management tool that your learner will be using next year. Everything will be housed on Empower. You will also be able to access real-time information whenever it's convenient for you, as opposed to waiting for a report card. Until we are in the process right now of building up our evidence on Empower of each learner. Until we have all of our evidence, we're currently using a learning progression chart to place learners, and I'll talk to you about how we do that in just a moment. We are working in a 3 to 5 cluster and also moving into the 6th through 8th middle school cluster in Project Rise. When learners start, we will give them an anticipation guide, and on this anticipation guide, we'll give them a couple questions that would relate to each learning target. Each learning target builds on the previous learning target, and eventually at the end of 5th grade cluster is that they're able to represent and interpret data using measures, things using graphs. That is the performance indicator that we're working through the targets to achieve. This is an example of our anticipation guides, where you can see the learning targets are labeled, and then an example of 2 or 3 different questions will be given. Depending on how your learner does with these anticipation guides, it will reveal to us as facilitators where they need to begin their instruction.
Another nice thing about the anticipation guides, it also gives us evidence of what they already know. So we would not they would not be given learning opportunities with the targets mastered and shown proficiency with on the anticipation guide.
And Mr. Serwa at the meeting shared a great analogy of using sports to kind of explain the progression of targets. So our big standard, which is I can represent and interpret data, that could relate to I can play basketball. And my learning target A, which is the first thing I need to know, is how to dribble a ball. So I would have to learn how to dribble a ball. I'd move to target B, and then it would be passing the ball. Target C would be shooting the basketball, and we'd move up from there.
Okay, we'll take you into what Empower looks like. So this is Empower. This is the facilitator's point. But if I was a learner and I had just completed my anticipation, and I may have scored in target A, or I need to learn how to dribble the ball, this is where I would start in target A. And within target A, you're going to have the I learn, the I practice. And the same setup will be for almost every playlist that your child will go with or would like to continue their learning with. I'm going to go into the student view. So as a learner, I can see what my overall target is, what I want to be able to do, which in this point is I can understand how to draw a scaled picture and bar graph to data with several categories, which takes me to my action. And this is the step-by-step instructions that your learners they'll practice reading directions for understanding. So it starts very explicit. So open to a new page in your math journal and write the date. The second direction, get your headphones, write the name of the video on the top of your page and watch and pause the video to take professional notes. The link is attached right here, so the learners would go in, watch their video, take their notes in their math journal, and what's great is that they can pause and return to the video. It's a very similar setup in iPractice, and when they reach iMaster, when they think they can show us they understand that target, they would take a mastery check for us, would show us that they're ready to, after they've as well gone back to fix any glorious mistakes in their anticipation. And that is Empower. Your learners will also have a chance to go in and review their progress in all areas, but that's something that we will work with them as we introduce them.
And that is the conclusion of our presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to email the 4 facilitators for the personalized learning program next year or Mr. Stevens. Thanks for watching.